You are standing at the edge of an ancient, melting world. Beneath your feet, ice fractures and shifts, a silent warning whispered by time itself. You watch the sky darken with the rumble of distant herds, giants shaped by nature's harshest trials, moving with purpose across shifting glaciers. How did your ancestors, with nothing but raw instinct and rudimentary tools, follow these colossal creatures across an ever-changing, treacherous landscape? What secret methods did they use to survive and thrive when the earth beneath them was literally disappearing? Every step you take echoes a story lost in ice and time. You are about to uncover the hidden intelligence of cavemen hunters who didn't just track animals, but read a dynamic world in flux. But beware, the truth is far from simple. It challenges everything you thought you knew about early human survival and adaptation. What you'll learn here will reshape your understanding of resilience, ingenuity, and the ancient dance between man, beast, and ice. You are standing on the edge of a continent that barely remembers warmth. All around you, the earth groans beneath a crushing sheet of ice. The sky is low and colorless, heavy with the threat of snow that never seems to end. Your breath fogs into tiny ghosts that vanish as quickly as they form. You wrap yourself tighter in the stitched furs of beasts long hunted, but the cold still finds its way in like a whisper, a warning. This is not just winter. This is a prison of cold, the peak of the last ice age, when glaciers devour entire valleys and silence rules the world. But even here, life moves. Across the tundra, the ground shudders beneath migrating herds, reindeer, bison, mammoths, and beasts you've only glimpsed from the edge of your firelight. They are distant thunder, always moving, always just beyond reach. You and your kin don't just follow them, you depend on them. Everything you wear, eat, shape, and burn comes from their bones, hides, and muscle. But they do not walk in straight lines. They cross rivers that freeze and thaw overnight. They vanish into snowstorms that last for days. And they leave behind almost nothing, only faint, disappearing clues. So how do you track what seems untrackable? The ground beneath your feet is treacherous, ice, mud, meltwater, then ice again. Footprints vanish before you can study them. Wind erases every sign, and yet, somehow, you keep finding them. Because long before you ever carve a symbol into stone, you learn to read a different kind of language, one made not of words but of absence. A broken branch that bends the wrong way, a patch of snow packed too tightly, a faint musky scent in the air, just sharp enough to make you stop breathing. These are the sentences your world is written in, and your survival depends on reading them faster, deeper, and more intuitively than the ice can erase them. The herds move like weather patterns, massive, unpredictable, and tied to forces you cannot see. Some follow the moss hidden beneath the snow, others migrate by the tilt of the sun. But you don't know these reasons, not yet. All you know is that they are moving, and if you don't find them, you die. So you begin to map the unmappable. You memorize where the rivers thaw early. You remember which slopes hold sun longer, even in the dead of winter. You study where the wind shifts first because the herds feel that too. You watch the birds. You watch the trees. You watch the ice itself. Because every crack, every shimmer, every odd silence means something. You don't have paper. You don't need it. The map is in your body now, carried in bone-deep instinct, in generational memory passed through stories, gestures, and scars. It lives in the soles of your feet, in the rhythm of your breath as you walk for hours with no sound but the crunch of ice. You don't chase the herd, you anticipate it. But this anticipation comes at a cost. Sometimes you cross frozen lakes that echo like drums, warning you with every footstep that the surface is thinner than it looks. You test with spears. You crawl when needed, but there are no guarantees. One misstep and the ice opens, just for a second, just enough, and another one of your kin is gone beneath the surface. You don't speak about it, you simply keep walking. And in time, you begin to notice the deeper patterns, the signs not just of where the herds are, but why they move. The tilt of sunlight, the freeze of a distant river, the behavior of the wolves. You are not watching isolated moments anymore. You're tracking systems, feedback loops of biology, temperature, terrain, and instinct, long before modern science even has names for them. This is not superstition. This is proto-ecology. And you are learning it in real time, with your life on the line. But what if the world changes faster than you can track it? Because something is stirring beneath the glaciers, not just movement, but melting. The ice is retreating in places. Rivers that once stayed frozen for months are loosening earlier. Hills you once crossed without thought are cracking, shifting, forming new dangers. And with every melt, the herds adapt. They find new paths. They reroute around ice shelves collapsing from within. They cross different rivers. They vanish into forests still clinging to the edge of the cold. So you must adapt again. You stop looking for the herd itself and start watching for its future. Where will the moss grow in spring? Which hills will thaw first? You are no longer tracking the past. You are predicting the future, running simulations in your mind, based only on what the earth is whispering through its patterns. You do not know it yet, but this is the beginning of data analysis. Not numbers, but intuition sharpened by exposure, time, and stakes. You have no algorithms. You have something deeper, the quiet terror of hunger. And from that comes a sharpened focus no tool can replicate. You listen to the meltwater beneath your feet. You remember when that stream last cracked. You adjust, you move. And the hunters survive. Barely. You carry no map, but your children will know the places where the sun melts the ice first. They will know where the snow hides moss in late spring. They will not need to learn these things again, because now it's tradition spoken around fires, etched into cave walls with charcoal and ochre. The shape of a valley, the path of a herd, the curve of a river that never freezes all the way. You've done more than survive. You've encoded a moving, adaptive knowledge system, one that lets your people walk into the frozen unknown with eyes open. But the unknown is changing. The ice is not as eternal as it once seemed. And neither are you. Because in the far-off future, the glaciers will fully retreat. The rivers will flood. The animals will scatter. And new threats and possibilities will rise from the exposed soil. But none of that has happened yet. For now, you are still a shadow against the snow, hunting giants across a dying frost. And every footstep forward is not just a movement, it is a bet against extinction. So before the next storm rolls in, before the herd changes course, you ask yourself, are you reading the world fast enough to stay alive? Or will the ice shift one last time and leave you behind? If you were walking that line, would you have stepped forward or stayed in the cave, waiting for a spring that might never come? You stand at the edge of the frozen expanse once more, but today the horizon hums with a different energy. Far off, the ground trembles beneath a thunderous procession, a great herd of mammoths, lumbering like living mountains across the tundra. Their massive forms, shaggy with tangled fur and crowned with ivory tusks curving like ancient bows, seem almost mythical against the pale sky. You can almost hear the deep rumble of their footsteps, a heartbeat of the ice age itself, pulsing through the frozen silence. These colossal creatures are more than just beasts. They are the architects of your world. Their movements shape the landscape, crushing forests into grasslands, sculpting paths through the ice, stirring the air with scents that ripple like invisible threads across the vast wilderness. For you and your tribe, the mammoths are life and death entwined. Every tusk, every hide, every marrow-filled bone feeds your people. But tracking these giants demands more than brute strength or raw courage. It requires a profound understanding of the land they roam, a language written in subtle shifts and whispered clues. You watch the herd carefully, knowing that their journey is not random, but guided by ancient rhythms and hidden knowledge of the melting ice and thawing earth. The mammoths follow routes carved by generations of footsteps, paths shaped by the slow retreat of glaciers, and the ebb of seasonal growth beneath the snow. But these trails are fragile, often disappearing beneath layers of fresh snow or rushing meltwater. Your ancestors learned to read these vanishing signs, not with maps or words, but through keen observation and passed down stories that etched survival strategies into your very bones. You feel the tension coil inside you. Every crack in the ice, every patch of disturbed earth, every broken twig could mean the difference between a successful hunt and an empty stomach. But these signs are subtle, and the melting landscape adds a dangerous uncertainty. Rivers once frozen solid are now unpredictable torrents. Ice shelves fracture without warning. The mammoths move cautiously, their massive feet testing the ground, leaving behind footprints that speak of their weight, speed, and direction, but fade quickly in the wind. Your tribe's survival depends on deciphering these clues. You've learned to watch not only the mammoths but the creatures that follow them, the wolves that trail the herd like shadows, the scavenging birds circling overhead. Their behavior reveals patterns invisible to the untrained eye. When the wolves pause, when the birds scatter suddenly, you know the herd is changing course, or danger lurks nearby. Tracking mammoths is more than a hunt. It is an intricate dance of patience, knowledge, and respect. You are both predator and student, learning to move with the rhythm of the herd rather than against it. The ice beneath your feet is no longer just a frozen barrier, but a living, shifting map that you read with your senses, your memories, and your instincts. As you follow the mammoth trail, you begin to sense something deeper, a connection that transcends the immediate need for survival. The mammoths embody the heartbeat of the Ice Age, their migration a living chronicle of the planet's slow thaw and the fragile balance of ecosystems. Your ancestors understood this intimately. Their stories and rituals honored the cycle of life, death, and rebirth tied to these giants. You remember tales told by elders around the fire, how the mammoth's path would lead your people to safety or to ruin, how the animals carried the wisdom of the land within their movements. This knowledge was sacred, guarded fiercely and passed down through generations, shaping not only hunting practices but the very identity of your tribe. But the landscape is changing faster than ever. The ice melts unevenly, revealing new paths but also new dangers. Your tribe must adapt quickly, learning to predict shifts in the herd's routes, understanding how melting glaciers open and close corridors across the vast frozen world. The challenge is immense, but so is the reward. Following the Mammoth Trail offers not just sustenance but a profound connection to a world in flux, a chance to survive where others perish. And as you move forward, step by cautious step, you realize that tracking these giants is a lesson in humility and endurance. You are part of a story that stretches beyond your own life, woven into the fabric of Ice Age survival and human ingenuity. The mammoths may be the giants of the tundra, but your tribe's knowledge, passed through countless winters and melts, is the true force that keeps the flame of humanity burning in the cold. So you ask yourself, as the herd fades into the horizon, how will you carry this knowledge forward? How will you honor the ancient dance between hunter and prey, ice and life, survival and transformation? If you were there, tracing the Mammoth Trail, would you see the hidden stories written in their footsteps? Would you have the patience to wait, the wisdom to follow, and the courage to lead when the ice itself threatens to swallow you whole? But this is just the beginning. The mammoths move on, and so must you, deeper into the melting world where every step holds a secret and every horizon promises a new challenge. You step onto the ice, its surface gleaming under a pale sun that barely warms the air. It stretches before you like an endless glass highway, both a promise and a threat. This frozen world beneath your feet is no silent stage. It breathes, shifts, and speaks in creaks and groans that echo through the vast silence. You quickly learn that ice is as much a living adversary as any beast stalking the tundra. Every step you take sends tiny shivers rippling across its surface, as if the very ground questions your presence. You know deep inside that this ice has memories, fractures forming slowly, veins of weakness hidden beneath the snow. The landscape is an unstable labyrinth, an intricate puzzle forged by relentless cold and gradual thaw. It offers passage when rivers and forests are impassable, but misjudge its mood and it will betray you. You listen intently to the subtle sounds that hint at danger, the faint cracking that sounds like whispers from the earth's frozen heart, the distant rumble like thunder rolling underfoot. These noises are warnings written in a language of tension and release. They tell stories of ice thinning, of sheets flexing and shifting as if the world itself is breathing beneath your feet. The ice groans in protest at the weight of your tribe. It warns of hidden cavities filled with freezing water and sudden collapse. Yet it is also your ally. The ice is a bridge across desolation. It allows you to cross where water once ruled, to chase herds along predictable frozen rivers, and to evade predators who cannot navigate its slick expanse. You learn to read the ice like a living map, tracing the patterns of frost, the thickness that varies with shadow and sun, the subtle color changes that hint at strength or fragility. You become attuned to the pulse of the frozen world, sensing where it can hold your weight and where it cannot. There is a ritual to this navigation, a dance of caution and courage. You and your tribe test the ice with spears, tapping and probing before each step. You watch the flow of meltwater beneath translucent surfaces, tracing dark currents that threaten to undermine the solid ground. You remember where the ice broke last season, marking it as forbidden. You understand that one wrong move means vanishing beneath a frozen abyss where rescue is impossible. This constant tension shapes your every decision. Your heart hammers with the knowledge that the ice might fracture in an instant, swallowing you into a cold silence deeper than death. You carry the weight of this danger in every footfall, in every breath that clouds before your face. But with every successful crossing, the ice rewards you with new paths, new hunting grounds, and a fleeting dominion over the frozen wilderness. You find ways to use the ice's unpredictability against your prey. Mammoths and reindeer, massive and heavy, risk the ice more cautiously. Sometimes, you follow their tentative steps to safer routes. Other times, you set traps near thin ice or fracture zones, understanding that a collapsing sheet can isolate or disorient a herd. You learn to watch not just the animals but the ice itself, turning its instability into a tool for survival. But the ice's betrayal is never far away. The frozen landscape is a merciless teacher, reminding you with every crack and groan that your dominion is precarious. You watch companions disappear into icy waters, swallowed by sudden fractures that open like jaws beneath the snow. Their silent plunges haunt your steps, a grim echo of nature's indifferent power. Still, your tribe endures. This raw, icy world shapes your instincts, your stories, your very being. It teaches you patience, respect, and the delicate balance between risk and reward. You come to understand that to master the ice, you must become part of its rhythm, neither rushing blindly nor retreating in fear, but moving with calculated precision and humble reverence. As the ice creaks beneath you once more, you realize that it is not just a frozen obstacle but a complex force of nature, both ally and enemy, a shifting boundary between life and death. Your survival depends on this understanding, on reading the silent warnings in the ice's shifting heart, and on the courage to step forward even when the ground might vanish beneath your feet. If you were standing there, feeling the ice pulse under your weight, would you trust your instincts enough to move forward? Would you learn to listen to the frozen world's whispers before it was too late? The ice is alive, and so are you, caught in a fragile dance on the edge of extinction. But the story continues. The thaw will come, the ice will shift, and new challenges will rise from the melting world. Your journey across the frozen abyss is only just beginning. You crouch low, your breath fogging in the cold air, eyes locked on the pristine snow at your feet. At first glance, the world around you seems still, silent, a frozen canvas untouched by life. But as your gaze sharpens, the surface beneath you reveals its secrets. Every footprint, every broken twig, every displaced snowflake is a word in an ancient language. This is the language of tracks, a silent dialogue etched into the frozen earth, waiting for you to listen to understand. You lean in closer, fingers brushing the powdery crust as you trace the gentle impressions left by creatures who passed through this place only hours ago, maybe less. The shape of a hoof, the depth of a paw print, the way the snow buckles under weight, each nuance tells a story. You begin to discern the difference between a mammoth's heavy stomp, a reindeer's delicate step, and a wolf's swift dash. This silent map is alive, pulsing with information that could mean the difference between survival and starvation. But it's not just about identifying who passed here. You're learning to read intention, to unravel behavior. A staggered trail suggests a wounded animal struggling to keep pace with its herd. A sudden break in the pattern might mean a predator lies in wait nearby, hidden in shadow and ice. The tracks don't just record the past, they hint at what's to come. Following this language means stepping inside the minds of the hunted and the hunter alike. This skill, this secret art, is your lifeline. It's what elevates you from a desperate wanderer chasing shadows to a master of anticipation and precision. You know instinctively that tracking is less about speed and more about patience, less about brute force and more about wisdom. It demands a calm mind that can piece together fragments, a heart steady enough to wait for the right moment to act. Learning this language took generations. Your ancestors, long before you, discovered that every tiny detail matters. The way a twig is snapped can reveal the weight of the passing creature. The freshness of a print signals how recently it was made. Over campfires, elders passed down stories of trails followed and lost, teaching you to trust your senses even when the landscape is shifting beneath your feet. But the world you track in is mercurial. Melting ice and drifting snow constantly reshape the terrain, erasing some clues while revealing others. A fresh snowfall can bury the story you've been unraveling for days, forcing you to start anew, recalibrating your mind to the new script written by nature's hand. You've come to accept this unpredictability as part of the dance, a constant tension between knowing and uncertainty. Even the smallest details carry weight. The way the snow glistens differently where compressed underfoot, the curve of a tail dragging behind a fleeing creature, the faint scent lingering in the cold air, all feed your understanding. You become a collector of fragments, piecing together a living puzzle that stretches far beyond what you can see. Your mind works like a vast tapestry, weaving together the behavior of entire ecosystems. You notice how mammoth herds tend to favor certain corridors carved through the ice, how reindeer veer toward patches of emerging grass, and how predators adjust their routes accordingly. Each track you read is a thread in this intricate web of life. This deep understanding shapes not only your hunting but your entire worldview. The animals you track are not just prey. They are guides, teachers, and sometimes warnings. Their movements signal changes in the land, in the seasons, even in the weather. To follow their trails is to engage in a conversation with nature itself, one where you must listen carefully and respond wisely. There is an almost sacred aspect to this language. You don't simply follow tracks, you honor them. You move lightly, mindful not to erase the stories others have left behind. Your footsteps are deliberate, measured, respectful of the fragile truths beneath the snow. The act of tracking becomes a ritual, a connection to your ancestors who relied on the same skills to endure the harshest of winters. Sometimes, you pause to reflect on the knowledge carried in these footprints. How many generations before you stood exactly where you are now, deciphering the same silent clues? How many lives depended on the ability to see what others could not? This lineage of knowledge binds you across time, a reminder that you are part of something greater than yourself. But mastering this language is not without its risks. The environment is unforgiving. Misreading a track can lead you into traps laid by predators or dangerous terrain hidden beneath the snow. The melting ice adds another layer of danger. One false step can plunge you into icy waters, lost beneath the surface forever. You carry these risks in your heart as you move forward, each decision heavy with consequence. Yet with every successful tracking, you gain confidence. The landscape becomes less hostile, more familiar. You start to predict not just where the herd will move next, but how the environment itself will change. You begin to see the patterns in the chaos, the subtle shifts in snow texture, the way the wind scatters fresh prints, the cracks forming in the ice as it slowly surrenders to the warming sun. This knowledge transforms hunting into an art form. You are no longer simply chasing food. You are engaged in a primal dialogue with life and death, with the earth and the creatures that sustain you. Each step, each breath, each moment of silence holds meaning. The hunt becomes a story, an unfolding drama where every movement is charged with purpose. And as you stand there, reading the frozen script beneath your feet, you realize something profound. This language is not just about survival. It is a testament to human resilience, ingenuity, and connection to the natural world. It is a bridge between past and future, a key that unlocks the mysteries of a time when humans were still learning to master their environment. If you were there, faced with this silent expanse, would you have the patience to learn the track's stories? Would you trust your instincts to follow where the snow leads, even when the path seems uncertain? Would you hear the whispers written in frost and twig, and let them guide your journey through the melting ice? The language of tracks is a gift and a challenge, a constant reminder that beneath the frozen surface lies a world teeming with life and secrets waiting to be uncovered. It calls you to become more than a hunter, to become a student of the earth, a listener to the silent stories that shape all existence. As you rise from the snow, the cold air biting at your cheeks, you carry this knowledge forward, not just for yourself, but for those who will come after. This skill will be the thread that ties your story to theirs, weaving a legacy of survival, wisdom, and profound connection to the shifting world beneath your feet. The tracks do not lie. They are a map, a language, a lifeline. And you are now part of this ancient dialogue, walking in the footsteps of giants, reading the frozen whispers of a world on the edge of transformation. You press your fingers against the cold, rough surface of a bone, freshly stripped from a fallen mammoth. The weight of it feels both familiar and extraordinary in your grasp, a raw material shaped by the life and death of the creatures around you. In a world ruled by ice and endless cold, metal is a distant dream, a mystery yet to be unearthed. But here, in this frozen wilderness, your survival hinges on the tools you can craft from what the earth and beasts provide. This bone, this flint, this shard of obsidian, they are extensions of your own body, weapons born from nature's bones and fire, honed to perfection by your steady hands. You take the flint in your palm, its edges rough and jagged but promising. With careful, deliberate strikes, you chip away at it, sparks flying in the pale sunlight. Each fragment you remove is a step closer to a blade sharp enough to pierce thick hide, to cut through sinew, to defend against a charging predator. The sound of stone striking stone echoes in the quiet, a rhythm as ancient as the glaciers themselves. It's a slow, meditative process, demanding patience and precision, but every successful strike brings a surge of triumph, a testament to human ingenuity in a world that tests your limits at every turn. Your spear is not just a weapon, it is a lifeline. Carved from a sturdy mammoth bone, it balances perfectly in your hand, its point painstakingly sharpened with flint flakes. You've learned to attach sinew and resin to secure the spearhead, blending materials with a knowledge passed down through generations. This craftsmanship is a silent conversation with your ancestors, an inheritance more valuable than gold or jewels. Because here, in the bitter cold, a tool is not just an object. It is a key to survival, a bridge between your will and the unforgiving environment. The ice beneath your feet shifts and cracks, and you know that speed alone won't save you. Your weapons must be precise, your movements calculated. When you hurl your spear at a mammoth, it is the culmination of knowledge about the animal's behavior, the terrain, the timing of your throw. Every tool you carry is a culmination of countless hours of trial, error, and innovation, shaped by necessity and refined by experience. But your tools are more than just weapons. You craft scrapers from bone shards to clean hides, needles from slender ribs to stitch warm clothing, and digging sticks carved from sturdy wood to unearth hidden roots beneath the frozen soil. Each implements a vital role in your day-to-day life, a testament to your adaptability and resourcefulness. In the absence of metal, every tool must be multifunctional, durable, and designed with care to meet the harsh demands of your environment. As you work, your mind wanders to the quiet fireside discussions of your tribe. Here, elders recount stories of the first spear made from bone, the first flint blade that saved a life, the first needle that stitched warmth into cold nights. These tales are not mere history, they are lessons, blueprints for innovation forged in the crucible of survival. They remind you that progress is slow and deliberate, a series of small breakthroughs that together build the future. The cold air bites at your face, but your hands remain steady, warmed by the focused rhythm of your craft. You feel the intimate connection between your body, the tools, and the natural world. Every scratch, every chip, every polished edge is an extension of your will to endure, to conquer the challenges that ice and time have laid before you. You realize that the tools you create are not just practical, they carry meaning. They are symbols of human resilience, markers of a species learning to shape the world rather than be shaped by it. Each spearhead is a story, each flint knife a promise, each bone needle a thread stitching your survival into the fabric of history. In this frozen expanse, where the margin between life and death is razor thin, your ingenuity becomes your greatest weapon. The ice may crack beneath your feet, the winds may howl like ancient ghosts, but with your tools fashioned from bone and stone, you stand not as prey but as a master of your fate. If you were there, holding that spear, would you feel the weight of your ancestors' knowledge in your hands? Would you understand the delicate balance between force and finesse, between destruction and creation? Would you see your tools not just as objects, but as lifelines woven from the bones of giants and the fires of survival? These tools of ice and bone are more than relics. They are the foundation of your journey through a frozen world. They tell a story of innovation born from necessity, of humanity's relentless quest to adapt, endure, and thrive against impossible odds. And as you stand ready, spear in hand, you know this chapter of survival is only just beginning. You stand at the edge of a frozen plain, the wind tearing across the ice like a wild beast unleashed. It carries more than just cold. It carries warnings, whispers of danger that ripple through the air and into your very bones. Every gust, every shift in the clouds above, every crack of the ice beneath your feet is a message, one you cannot afford to ignore. Because out here, in the heart of the last ice age, the weather is not just background noise. It is a living force that shapes your every decision, your every breath, your very survival. You've learned to listen, not with your ears alone, but with your entire being. The subtle change in wind direction hints at an approaching storm. The thickening of clouds signals a sudden drop in temperature, and the way the snowflakes fall whispers secrets about the shifting ice beneath. It's a language without words, spoken by nature herself, and you have become one of her most attentive students. The wind is relentless, slicing through your fur and chilling your skin. But it also carries the scent of distant herds, the faint trace of mammoths moving toward greener pastures. You can smell the damp earth far beyond what your eyes can see. This knowledge gives you an edge, because the herds follow the weather as much as the food. When the wind changes, they change course. When the ice weakens, they avoid certain routes. To track them, you must track the weather. Your tribe has learned that the sky is both friend and foe. The sun, when it peeks through the gray clouds, can promise a brief reprieve from the biting cold, a chance to hunt, to gather, to move without haste. But the storm that follows can trap you, burying the world in blinding snow and turning familiar paths into deadly traps. You've seen what happens when the ice shifts underfoot, cracking without warning and swallowing those caught unprepared. But this danger breeds vigilance and cunning. You observe the smallest changes, the way the clouds thicken in the east, the sharpness of the cold in the morning air, the sudden stillness that precedes a blizzard. These signs have been honed over thousands of years, passed from elder to child like sacred knowledge. You've become an early meteorologist, reading patterns that no written language could capture, translating nature's moods into survival strategies. You feel the weight of this knowledge every time you step onto the ice. The shifting terrain beneath you is a mirror of the sky above. A sudden thaw can turn solid ground into treacherous slush. A freeze can snap branches and crack ice sheets like glass. The weather dictates where you can go and when. It controls the rhythm of your life. Sometimes the sky offers subtle warnings, like the eerie stillness before a storm, when even the animals fall silent. Your heart quickens, muscles tense, knowing that in moments the world will change. And change fast. You've learned to move swiftly, to seek shelter, to protect your tribe from nature's fury. But other times the signs are less clear, the line between danger and safety blurred by hope and desperation. This relationship with the weather is not one of mastery, but of respect and adaptation. You do not seek to conquer the elements. You seek to understand them, to dance with their rhythms. Your survival depends on this delicate balance, on your ability to predict nature's next move, to anticipate the ice's shift and the herd's flight. The ice and sky tell a story, and you are its interpreter. You watch how the herd's footprints change after a sudden snowfall, how the tracks lead to sheltered valleys where the wind is less fierce. You learn which plants emerge first after a thaw, where the game hides when the storms rage. This knowledge guides your every step. Yet even with all your skill, the weather remains unpredictable. One wrong reading can mean a fatal misstep, a plunge into icy waters, a night exposed to the storm's full wrath. The stakes are high, and the cost of error is etched in the frozen ground beneath you. But it is this very uncertainty that sharpens your instincts. You become attuned to nuance, to patterns invisible to others. You know the telltale signs of changing seasons, the subtle shifts in wind and temperature that herald migration. Your senses become instruments finely tuned to the natural world, capable of detecting shifts before they fully unfold. And in this icy crucible, your instincts are your greatest ally. They merge with the wisdom passed down through generations, blending experience with intuition. You are no longer simply reacting to the environment. You are anticipating it, moving in harmony with forces larger than yourself. If you were standing here, feeling the icy wind lash your face, would you be able to read the sky's warnings? Would you trust the whispers carried on the wind, or question your instincts in the face of uncertainty? Could you balance caution with courage, knowing that every decision could tip the scales between life and death? The weather is a silent teacher, harsh but fair. It demands respect, patience, and keen observation. Those who learn its language thrive. Those who do not are swallowed by the cold. In this frozen world, understanding the weather is as vital as the tools in your hand or the tracks under your feet. As you prepare to move forward, you carry this knowledge with you, a quiet confidence born of countless storms weathered and lessons learned. You are not just a survivor of the ice age. You are a listener to the whispers of wind and snow, an interpreter of nature's ever-changing moods. And this connection, fragile yet fierce, will be the difference between being lost in the frozen abyss and carving a path toward a future written in ice and bone. You stand at the edge of the tundra, the sharp wind biting at your exposed skin, as your eyes lock onto the distant shapes moving across the frozen expanse. The mammoths, those colossal giants of the Ice Age, are not just aimless wanderers. They are living networks of communication. Their every step, every sound, every subtle movement carrying messages that ripple through the herd like a secret language. To the untrained eye, they are merely beasts, but to you, they are a complex system of signals, ancient and vital, whispering warnings and commands that have guided their survival for thousands of years. You begin to notice the low, rumbling vibrations that roll through the ground, a deep, resonant hum that seems to pulse beneath your feet. It's a sound you can feel as much as hear, traveling through the ice and soil like a heartbeat of the herd itself. This rumble is more than noise. It's a warning system, a way for the mammoths to alert one another of approaching danger long before it becomes visible. You learn to listen for these signals, to interpret the vibrations as signs of a predator lurking nearby or a change in the weather that might alter their path. It's a primal conversation, carried on waves of sound and movement that bind the herd together. But sound is only one thread in this intricate tapestry of communication. The mammoths also speak in sense, a language woven from the natural chemistry of their bodies. As the wind shifts, you catch the faint, earthy aroma of musk, the subtle scent marking territory or signaling reproductive readiness. You know that these smells are more than mere odors. They are messages layered with meaning, invisible but unmistakable to those who understand. This chemical dialogue shapes the herd's social structure, dictating alliances, rivalries, and the delicate balance that keeps the group moving as one. The movements of the herd are perhaps the most visible and the most telling of their signals. You watch as the lead mammoth shifts direction, its massive form turning slowly but decisively. The others respond instantly, flowing like a living river, their bodies adjusting to maintain formation. When a calf stumbles or a predator prowls at the edges, the herd tightens, the rhythm of their steps changing in unison. These are not random behaviors, but deliberate, coordinated responses that reflect a deep intelligence honed by survival. As you observe, you realize that these secret signals of the herd mirror your own tribe's methods of communication. Just as the mammoths use rumblings and scents to warn and guide, you use voices, gestures, and signs to coordinate hunts and protect your people. Your survival depends on understanding their language as much as your own. Decoding these messages turns the hunt from a desperate chase into a carefully orchestrated dance, where patience and timing become as crucial as strength and speed. The connection between you and the herd runs deeper than predator and prey. It is a shared struggle against the unforgiving environment. Both your tribe and the mammoths depend on communication to navigate the shifting ice, to avoid dangers hidden beneath the snow, and to find food and shelter in a world that offers no guarantees. This overlapping survival strategy is a testament to the intelligence etched into every living creature struggling to endure the ice age. You begin to anticipate the herd's movements, reading their signals before the mammoths themselves fully commit. A sudden pause, a flick of an ear, the direction of a tail, all become clues that unlock the herd's intentions. This knowledge transforms your role from hunter to partner in a complex, ancient system of survival. The chase becomes less about brute force and more about harmony, a dance where every step matters. But with this understanding comes a new challenge. The herd's communication is fluid and subtle, easily disrupted by the noise of human interference or the unpredictability of weather. One wrong move can scatter the animals, breaking the fragile order and forcing the herd to flee. You must learn to move quietly, to blend with the environment, respecting the boundaries that keep the ancient signals clear. There are moments when the herd's signals feel almost mystical, as if you are glimpsing a language older than words, a primal code that binds all living things in a shared web of existence. You sense the profound intelligence at work in these giant creatures, an awareness that challenges any notion of them as mere beasts. This realization deepens your respect and sharpens your resolve, because to survive, you must honor the intelligence of the world around you. If you were standing here, feeling the subtle vibrations beneath your feet, catching the scent of musk on the cold wind, would you be able to hear the herd's whispers? Could you decode the language hidden in their movements and sounds? Would you become part of this ancient dialogue or remain an outsider looking in? The herd's secret signals reveal a world alive with communication, strategy, and connection. They teach you that survival is not just about power, but about understanding and respect for the animals, the environment, and the delicate balance that sustains life in the frozen wilderness. And as you prepare to follow the herd once more, you carry these lessons with you, stepping lightly into a dance as old as time itself, where every movement tells a story, every signal holds meaning, and every life depends on listening closely to the whispers on the wind. You step cautiously onto the cracked ice, the surface beneath your feet no longer the solid, reliable ground you once knew. The cold that held the world frozen in place is beginning to falter. The relentless advance of warmth has begun to seep into the frozen plains, melting ancient glaciers and reshaping the very paths your ancestors followed for generations. What was once a predictable world of ice and snow is becoming a shifting, uncertain landscape where the rules of survival are rewritten with every thaw. You watch the horizon, where familiar migration routes twist and warp, no longer reliable as herds veer away from melted crossings or dangerously thin ice. The mammoths and reindeer that once trudged in steady patterns are now forced into new paths, paths you must learn to anticipate. But these routes are no longer carved in stone. They are fluid, changing with the whims of the weather and the pulse of the melting earth beneath your feet. The ancient strategies that kept your tribe alive now teeter on the edge of obsolescence. The melting ice is more than just a physical obstacle. It is a harbinger of chaos. Pools of icy water bubble up through cracks, swallowing footprints and erasing the subtle signs you once tracked with certainty. The frozen rivers that served as highways for both herds and hunters become treacherous labyrinths, their hidden weaknesses threatening to trap or drown the unwary. Every step you take is a gamble, the ground shifting beneath you in unpredictable ways. In this new world, brute strength alone is no longer enough to guarantee survival. You are forced to innovate, to develop new ways of reading the environment, to anticipate the herd's movements not just by tracks and scents, but by understanding the rhythms of thaw and freeze. Your eyes scan the changing landscape, seeking patterns in the chaos, where the ice holds firm, where the meltwater gathers, where the animals might find fresh grass sprouting on newly exposed soil. Your tribe's hunters gather around flickering fires at night, sharing stories of close calls and lost prey, of routes that have vanished beneath water and ice. These tales are more than just warnings. They are lessons, blueprints for survival in a world where the ground itself betrays you. You realize that the hunt has become a test not just of physical endurance, but of mental agility and adaptability. To keep pace with the herds, you begin to track the subtle cues of seasonal change. The first thaw, the early buds of grass, the softening of the snow underfoot. These signs guide you as much as any footprint or broken twig. You watch how the animals respond, how their behavior shifts with the warming, moving faster or slower, changing their grazing patterns to match the landscape's new contours. This is a time of transformation. The ice age is retreating, but the new world it leaves behind is fraught with challenges. You become acutely aware that survival hinges on more than muscle and weapons. It requires knowledge, patience, and a willingness to embrace uncertainty. Your tribe evolves, learning to hunt smarter, to move lighter, to respect the fragile balance between ice and water. The stakes have never been higher. One misstep on the melting ice can mean a plunge into freezing waters, a lost kill, or worse, the loss of a hunter vital to the tribe's future. Yet amidst this chaos, innovation flourishes. You fashion new tools designed for agility and precision, develop strategies to herd animals into safer hunting grounds, and refine your ability to read the environment's changing signals. Every day is a lesson in resilience. If you were standing on that fragile ice, feeling the cold water seep through the cracks beneath your feet, how would you adapt? Would you cling to old ways or embrace the uncertainty with ingenuity and courage? Could you become a master of a world in flux, or would you be swallowed by the melting abyss? The ice melt is not just a physical transformation. It is a crucible that tests your spirit, your tribe's unity, and your place in the ever-changing tapestry of life. In this relentless battle against nature's shifting moods, you discover that survival demands more than strength. It demands an evolving mind and a heart tuned to the rhythms of a world reborn. And as the ice continues to retreat, revealing new lands and new dangers, you step forward, not as a mere hunter of the past, but as a pioneer of a future forged on the fragile edge between ice and water, tradition and change. You crouch beside the flickering fire, its warm glow a fragile barrier against the vast, impenetrable darkness that stretches beyond the circle of light. Night falls swiftly in this ancient world, a shroud that brings with it a host of dangers and uncertainties. The cold presses in, sharper now, but it's the unseen threats lurking just beyond your vision that keep your senses razor sharp. You are not alone in this darkness. Predators prowling with hungry intent, the whisper of the wind carrying unknown sounds, and the eerie rustle of the frozen forest all remind you that night is a realm ruled by both opportunity and peril. The fire is your lifeline. It crackles and spits, a living, breathing thing that holds back the night's shadows. It's not merely a source of warmth against the biting cold. It is your shield, your signal, and your companion in this relentless fight for survival. The dance of flames draws you in, offering a strange comfort in the wild silence, but you know better than to let your guard down. Your eyes flick constantly beyond the firelight, searching for movement, listening for the faintest sound that might herald danger or prey. With every crackle, the fire seems to breathe life into your thoughts, casting dancing shadows that echo your tribe's ancient stories. Around this fire, you are not just surviving, you are creating the first sparks of culture. You exchange words, gestures, and memories with your companions, weaving bonds that will become the foundation of trust and cooperation. This firelight is the crucible where fear turns into courage, isolation into community. The night is also a time of heightened awareness. Your senses stretch to their limits. Every scent, every sound carries significance. The musky smell of a distant predator, the faint crunch of snow beneath cautious footsteps, the sharp snap of a twig, all of these signals are pieces of a puzzle you must solve to stay alive. You have learned to read the night like a story, where every detail matters and silence can be as loud as a roar. Your night watch is a sacred duty. While others sleep, you remain vigilant, eyes scanning the darkness, muscles tense and ready. The firelight reveals glimpses of the world beyond, glimmers of movement, the gleam of eyes reflecting the flames, the shifting silhouettes of shadows that could be friend or foe. You know that one misstep could mean the difference between life and death, not just for yourself, but for your entire tribe. But the fire does more than protect. It teaches you the rhythms of the night. Its glow marks the passage of time, offering a sense of continuity amidst chaos. You come to understand the cycles of danger and safety, the ebb and flow of activity in the wilderness. And with this knowledge, you begin to carve out a space of control within the uncontrollable, a refuge where the tribe can gather, plan, and dream. There is a subtle magic to this firelight, a force that stirs the imagination and soothes the primal fears that grip you in the dark. It is here, in the flickering shadows, that stories take shape, stories of hunts, of ancestors, of the spirits that dwell in the wild. These stories are more than entertainment. They are a map of your world, a guide to navigating the unknown. The fire becomes a storyteller, a keeper of knowledge passed from one generation to the next. Yet even in this sanctuary, danger is never far. The howls of wolves echo in the distance, reminders that the night is a constant contest between predator and prey. You feel the weight of responsibility pressing on your shoulders, the lives depending on your vigilance, the fragile hope that tomorrow's dawn will come. The firelight is your ally in this eternal watch, a fragile beacon in the vast, hungry darkness. If you were here, wrapped in the cold night, would you be able to hold your fear steady? Could you keep the fire alive long enough to see the dawn? Would you understand that this small circle of warmth and light is the difference between extinction and endurance? As the embers glow low and your breath forms clouds in the cold air, you realize that fire has transformed you. It has turned a lonely, perilous night into a shared experience of survival and hope. The flames connect you to your tribe, to the ancestors who first tamed the wild, and to the future that hinges on the fragile balance between light and dark. This night watch, bound by firelight and vigilance, is more than a moment of survival. It is the heartbeat of your emerging humanity. And as the stars wheel overhead and the cold wind hums a lullaby, you stand ready to face whatever comes next. Because in this ancient light, you have found strength, connection, and the will to endure. You sit quietly as the night deepens, the firelight flickering low and casting long shadows over the faces gathered close. Around you, the air is thick with cold, but the circle you form holds a warmth older than fire itself, an unspoken bond held in the stories shared by your elders. These keepers of wisdom, weathered by time and hardship, hold something far more precious than the tools in your hands or the food in your belly. They carry the memories of countless hunts, the echoes of lands long traveled, and the secrets of survival etched into their very souls. Their voices, steady and sure, wrap around you like a protective cloak, threading you into a lineage of knowledge that has preserved your tribe against unimaginable odds. The stories they tell are not mere entertainment or idle chatter. They are sacred vessels of knowledge, encoded in myth and memory, passed down from generation to generation with reverence and care. You learn to listen not just with your ears, but with every fiber of your being. Each tale is a lesson cloaked in narrative, a map that guides you through the shifting landscapes of hunger, danger, and hope. You don't just hear about a hunt, you feel the tension of the chase, the pulse of your ancestors' footsteps across ice and tundra, the cold bite of the wind that threatened to steal their breath. These stories are the repository of survival skills no written language could capture, carrying wisdom on the currents of sound and silence. As you absorb these ancient narratives, you realize the elders are more than storytellers. They are guardians of your tribe's soul. Their words forge connections, weaving the threads of trust, identity, and belonging. Through their voices, individual experience becomes communal wisdom. You feel how this shared knowledge knits the tribe together, making each member a vital part of something far greater than themselves. The elders' stories remind you that you are not alone in this frozen wilderness. You are part of a long chain of life, resilience, and adaptation. Each story holds layers of meaning. The elders speak of the balance between caution and courage, between patience and action. They do not glorify reckless bravery, but instead emphasize respect. Respect for the land, for the animals, and for the delicate dance between hunter and hunted. You learn that survival is not a matter of force alone. It demands observation, humility, and an intimate understanding of the world's rhythms. Through their stories, you internalize lessons that sharpen your senses and attune you to the subtle cues in the environment. The shift of the wind, the pattern of footprints in snow, the behavior of animals sensing danger. The oral tradition is also a tool of memory and prediction. The elders recount cycles of seasons and migration, moments when the herds changed their course, or when the ice betrayed the unwary. These narratives become a guidebook, a living archive that allows you to anticipate nature's moods and respond with agility. The knowledge is encoded in metaphor and repetition, making it easy to recall even in the direst moments. This is how you come to know when to move, when to wait, and when to strike, not from instruction manuals, but from stories sung by voices touched by the frost of time. Beyond survival, these stories shape your tribe's very identity. Around the fire, you are not just individuals battling the cold. You are members of a shared history, linked by the trials and triumphs of your ancestors. The elders' tales carry the weight of memory that anchors you in time and place. They tell of heroes and spirits, of alliances formed and broken, of lessons learned through hardship. This collective narrative becomes a source of strength and purpose, reminding you that you are the continuation of a story that will outlast even the harshest winters. The stories also serve as emotional bridges, connecting the past and future. When an elder recounts a tale of a great hunt or a near catastrophe, you feel the emotions, the fear, hope, joy, and loss wash over you. It is as if you are living those moments yourself, learning from them in a way no direct experience could match. This emotional resonance deepens your understanding and loyalty to the tribe, creating a sense of shared destiny that fuels cooperation and resilience. In these moments, you recognize that storytelling is not just about preserving the past, it is about shaping the future. The elders impart lessons on leadership, cooperation, and survival that you will one day pass on. They are crafting the next generation of hunters, leaders, and guardians, ensuring the continuity of knowledge that might otherwise be lost to time or tragedy. This oral tradition becomes a sacred trust, a living legacy handed from one voice to another in the flickering firelight. You begin to understand how vital this role is. Without the elders' stories, the tribe would lose not only practical knowledge, but the very fabric that holds it together. The stories create a shared framework for decision-making and identity. They remind you of the consequences of past mistakes and the rewards of wisdom and patience. They turn survival from a solitary struggle into a collective journey. If you had the chance to sit in this circle, surrounded by the crackling fire and the voices of your elders, would you grasp the magnitude of what they offer? Would you see that in every tale lies a key to your survival and a thread to your tribe's unbroken chain? Could you feel the quiet power of oral tradition as a force more enduring than stone or steel? As the fire dwindles to embers and the stars wheel overhead, the elders' words settle inside you like seeds beneath frozen earth. They promise growth, connection, and resilience. They remind you that no matter how fierce the cold or how wild the night, you carry within you the strength of those who walked before and those who will follow. The stories are not just memories, they are lifelines, pulling you through the darkness toward the dawn. And so the night deepens, but the circle endures. The elders speak, the tribe listens, and the ancient song of survival echoes through time, binding you all in a shared fate, a shared hope, and a shared humanity that will outlast the ice itself. You stand at the edge of the ice, the vast frozen world stretching endlessly before you, a landscape that shifts and changes with every breath of wind, every subtle thaw. There are no maps to guide your path, no compasses to point the way. Instead, you carry something far more powerful, a mental map etched deep within your mind, a living atlas born from years of observation, experience, and survival. This map is not static or simple. It is a dynamic, intricate web of knowledge that connects you to the ice, the herds, the shifting terrain beneath your feet. It is your secret compass in a world where one wrong step could mean death. Imagine the enormity of this task. The ice is never the same from one season to the next, sometimes treacherous with hidden cracks, sometimes solid and expansive. Herds of mammoths and other creatures follow paths that change with the melting and freezing of rivers and lakes. To survive, you must not only remember where you have been but predict where the land and the animals will be tomorrow, next week, or next season. This requires a spatial intelligence so profound it borders on the supernatural. You learn to read the landscape as if it were an ancient script, every ridge, every fissure, every frost pattern a symbol carrying meaning. This mental map is layered. The geography of ice and stone, the routes of migrating herds, the safest places to hunt, and the spots where shelter might be found when storms rage. It is not simply about place, but about timing and movement, a choreography between you and the world around you. Your mind becomes a living instrument, finely tuned to the rhythm of nature's changing patterns. This cognitive feat is not innate. It is cultivated through years of apprenticeship, watching, listening, and walking. You are taught to remember the sound of ice cracking in the distance, to sense the subtle shifts in wind that herald changes in weather, to spot the faintest signs of herd movement far on the horizon. Over time, You develop an almost uncanny ability to stitch these observations together into a coherent whole, a mental map that guides your decisions in moments when hesitation could be fatal. But this map is more than a tool for survival. It is a testament to your ancestors' extraordinary minds. Without written records or GPS, they navigated landscapes of terrifying scale and unpredictability, relying on memory, intuition, and a deep connection to their environment. This challenges the modern assumption that ancient humans were simple or unsophisticated. On the contrary, their spatial reasoning and environmental awareness were exceptional, a product of necessity and acute observation. You realize that this mental mapping is not just personal but communal. The knowledge is shared, passed from elder to apprentice, growing richer with each generation. Stories, songs, and rituals encode elements of this mental geography, turning memory into a living culture. This collective map binds the tribe together, ensuring that no one faces the vast ice alone or unprepared. It is a shared mental landscape, a foundation of trust and cooperation. Yet the ice itself remains a wild, restless force, reshaping your mental map with every thaw and freeze. Your ancestors learned to adapt constantly, updating their internal charts, recalibrating their instincts. This mental flexibility was as critical as any spear or fire. It was a form of intelligence that combined memory, prediction, and emotional resilience, allowing you to navigate uncertainty with grace and skill. Picture a moment when you must cross a wide, frozen river. The ice looks solid, but you know better than to trust appearances alone. You recall the stories of previous crossings, where the ice gave way, where animals slipped through cracks, where quick thinking saved lives. You pause, test the surface with a spear, listen for the faintest sounds beneath your feet. Your mental map warns you, guiding your steps to the safest path. This intimate knowledge of the land's temperament is your lifeline, a silent conversation between you and the ice. In this way, the mental map is both practical and profound, a blend of survival instinct and cognitive mastery. It's a reminder that your ancestors' relationship with their environment was deeply symbiotic. They did not conquer the ice. They learned to move with it, to read its moods, and to respect its power. This respect is encoded in their maps, not drawn on parchment, but etched in memory and shared through stories, songs, and ritual. If you were living in this frozen world, how would you train your mind to hold such complex, ever-changing knowledge? Could you cultivate the patience and observation needed to see patterns where others see only chaos? And what does this ancient mental mapping teach us about the untapped capacities of the human mind, both then and now? As you navigate the vast, shifting ice with this invisible map in your mind, you come to understand that survival was never just about strength or tools. It was about connection, connection to the land, to the animals, and most importantly, to each other. This cognitive legacy is a profound reminder that the greatest tool you carry is not in your hands, but in your mind. You stand on the frostbitten ground, the dawn breaking over a horizon painted with cold light and shadow. The hunt awaits, not just as a desperate struggle for food, but as a sacred rite woven into the very fabric of your existence. You feel the weight of something far greater than the spear in your hand or the sharp glint of flint at your belt. This is a ritual charged with meaning, a ceremony that binds you to the land, to the animals, and to the ancestors whose footsteps you follow. It is here, in the quiet moments before the chase, that survival and spirituality intertwine, shaping the heart of your tribe's identity. As the morning chill bites at your skin, you join your tribe in a circle, the air thick with anticipation and reverence. This gathering is no mere preparation. It is a passage, a collective breath drawn before the leap into the wild. You watch as the elders perform ceremonies, their voices low and steady, chanting ancient words that seem to ripple through the cold air. These chants are more than sound. They are a bridge between worlds, connecting you to the spirit of the hunt, to the unseen forces that govern life and death on the ice. The rituals serve a vital purpose. They sharpen your focus, steady your nerves, and awaken a deep respect for the creatures you seek. You learn that the hunt is not a careless act of destruction, but a sacred exchange, a dialogue between predator and prey, hunter and hunted. Every gesture in the ceremony, every symbol painted on skin or carved into bone, carries meaning. They remind you that to take life is to honor life, and that the balance between these forces must be maintained for the survival of all. This spiritual preparation is as essential as any weapon or skill. You can feel it in your muscles, the tightening and releasing of tension, in your breath, slow and deliberate. The ritual shapes your mindset, transforming fear into courage, chaos into order. You become part of something timeless, your heart syncing with the pulse of the land and the rhythm of the herd. This connection emboldens you, giving you a strength that goes beyond the physical, a strength born of shared belief and deep understanding. As you move toward the hunting grounds, the ritual continues in smaller, intimate ways. You exchange knowing glances with your companions, subtle signs passed silently like sacred codes. These gestures reaffirm trust and unity, vital threads in the fabric of cooperation. The hunt is never a solo endeavor. It is a collective dance where each participant plays a crucial role. The rituals bind you into a single organism, each member attuned to the others, moving as one with the landscape and the animals you pursue. You come to see how these ceremonies also serve a psychological function. In the face of the relentless cold, the unpredictable ice, and the ever-present threat of failure, the rituals provide a foundation of stability. They create a mental space where doubt can be quieted and focus intensified. The repetition of ancient words, the familiar motions, the shared silence, they all build resilience, preparing you to face the unknown with clear eyes and steady hands. Beyond this, the rituals strengthen social cohesion. They reinforce roles within the tribe, hunters, elders, storytellers, and ensure that knowledge and tradition are passed down with care and respect. The hunt becomes a communal event, a shared experience that knits the group together. Through these ceremonies, you learn the values that define your people: respect, patience, bravery, and reverence for the world you inhabit. There is a profound beauty in this blend of the practical and the spiritual. The rituals transform the hunt from a brutal necessity into an act of meaning, elevating survival into a sacred art. You understand that in honoring the hunt, you honor life itself, in all its fierce, fragile complexity. Imagine yourself on the cusp of the chase, heart pounding with anticipation, the cold biting at your face, but your spirit calm and centered. You carry the weight of generations in your bones, the echo of ancient chants in your ears. Would you feel the power of this connection, the steadying force of ritual that prepares you to face the wild with courage and respect? Could you embrace the hunt not just as a means to an end, but as a profound expression of your place in the world? As the hunt begins, you move with the grace of one who understands that every step, every breath, every moment is part of a sacred cycle. The rituals have readied you, not just to survive, but to live fully, connected deeply to the land, the herd, and your own humanity. And as the sun climbs higher, melting frost into memory, you carry with you the enduring strength of ritual, a force as old as the ice itself, shaping every hunt, every moment, every life. You wake to a world of ice and silence, but beneath that stillness lurks a quiet menace. The frozen landscape around you is as treacherous as it is breathtaking, a realm where danger is woven into every crack, every shadow, every breath of wind. You quickly learn that survival is not just about tracking herds or mastering the tools of the hunt. It is about navigating a labyrinth of hidden threats that could snap your life like thin ice underfoot. Here, on this razor's edge, you confront the raw truth of existence during the Ice Age. Life is a constant gamble, and every step could be your last. The ice itself is a living danger. It groans and shifts in ways you can barely predict, cracking under the weight of a wandering mammoth or trembling with unseen quakes beneath your feet. You have felt the ground tremble in sudden surges, ice quakes, fierce and violent, that split the frozen plains and swallow whole the careless or the unlucky. These events strike without warning, their sound a deafening roar that reverberates through your bones, shaking the very air you breathe. You've seen the aftermath, vast fissures that become deadly traps, swallowing hunters, animals, and tools alike. The ice, once your pathway, can transform into a predator itself. Predators lurk not only in the shadows of the night, but also in the blinding glare of the day. Wolves, saber-toothed cats, and other fierce carnivores are relentless competitors, stalking you as much as the mammoths you chase. You have learned to read their signs, footprints crushed into snow, low growls carried on the wind, eyes reflecting the firelight in the dark. The predators are not just threats. They are reminders that you are not the only hunter on this unforgiving stage. Every hunt becomes a high-stakes game of survival, where a misstep could mean being hunted in turn. Starvation is another silent enemy, lurking in the long shadows of winter and the unpredictable shifts of climate. The herds you rely on are not constant. They migrate, sometimes veering away from familiar paths or shrinking in numbers due to the harsh environment. Food is never guaranteed. You have felt the gnawing ache of hunger, the desperation it breeds, sharpening your senses but also fraying your resolve. The scarcity pushes you to take greater risks, cross thinner ice, venture farther from the safety of the tribe, or challenge predators for their prey. Hunger is a ruthless teacher, demanding innovation and relentless courage. But these dangers do more than threaten your body. They test your mind and spirit. The constant tension between risk and reward shapes every decision. You learn to balance caution with daring, to trust instincts honed through years of watching the land and the herds. The line between bravery and recklessness blurs, and only those who can navigate this delicate balance survive to tell the tale. You recall moments when the cold has cut through your clothes and flesh like a blade, when fatigue clouds your vision, and the weight of uncertainty presses down on your chest. Yet, even in these darkest hours, you find sparks of hope, a sudden break in the ice revealing safe passage, a glimpse of the herd's massive backs moving steadily forward, a crackling fire warding off the long, terrifying night. These moments of reprieve remind you why you endure, why you keep moving forward despite the invisible threats. This chapter of your journey reveals the true magnitude of the Ice Age's dangers, many of which remain hidden beneath the breathtaking beauty of the frozen world. It's a world that demands respect, vigilance, and an unyielding will to survive. The razor's edge you walk is not just a physical boundary, but a metaphor for the precariousness of life itself during this epoch. Every decision carries weight, every movement holds consequence, and the margin between triumph and tragedy is razor-thin. As you ponder the myriad threats, the trembling ice, the stalking predators, the relentless hunger, you begin to grasp the extraordinary resilience and cunning required to thrive in this world. Your ancestors were not just hunters or survivors. They were masters of a deadly dance, navigating a landscape where beauty and danger collided at every turn. If you were thrust into this icy crucible, how would you balance fear and courage? Could you read the subtle signs that signal danger before it strikes? And in the face of such relentless peril, what inner strength would you summon to keep moving forward? The Ice Age's hidden dangers are a testament to the fragility and power of life on the edge. They sharpen your awareness and deepen your respect for the ancestors who walked this perilous path before you, carving out a place for humanity amid the frozen abyss. You stand on the edge of a vast plain, once teeming with the thunderous footsteps of mammoths and reindeer, but now eerily silent. The ground beneath your feet no longer vibrates with the familiar rhythm of migrating herds. The animals you have tracked for generations have vanished, pushed by shifting climates, scarce food, or the shadow of relentless predators. This disappearance is more than a challenge. It is a threat that pierces the core of your survival. The world you know is unraveling, and you are forced to confront the stark reality: adapt or perish. At first, you search desperately for signs: broken branches, faint tracks, distant calls, anything to reveal where the herds have gone. But the trails grow cold, the usual markers fade like ghosts in the wind. Your tribe gathers, faces etched with worry, as you realize that the old ways may no longer suffice. The ice is melting, reshaping the landscape in unpredictable ways. Forests creep forward where tundra once stretched endlessly, and rivers carve new paths where frozen plains stood firm. In this changing world, the herds follow the food, the water, the safety, and you must follow them or risk starvation. But survival does not come from following blindly. It demands innovation. You begin to observe, to learn, to rethink the ancient strategies passed down by your ancestors. No longer is the hunt just about tracking massive beasts across endless ice. It becomes a complex puzzle of timing, terrain, and opportunity. You experiment with new tools, sharpen new weapons, and develop tactics suited for a world in flux. Smaller game, once ignored, now becomes vital. You learn to fish beneath cracking ice and to gather edible plants emerging in the thaw. Your diet shifts, reflecting the harsh lessons nature teaches. Flexibility is life. The disappearance of the herds also forces social change. The tribe becomes more than a hunting party. It evolves into a community of diverse roles. Gatherers, fishers, and tool makers work alongside hunters, each contributing to the fragile balance of survival. Elders pass down knowledge not only of animal tracks, but of the changing seasons and the plants that now sustain you. Children grow up learning to read the subtle signs of the environment, understanding that survival depends on a deep connection to every element of the ecosystem. This crisis ignites an evolution in your thinking and your relationship with the land. Where once the hunt was the central focus, now the land itself becomes a teacher. You learn to interpret the whisper of the wind through newly grown branches, the murmur of rivers swollen by melting ice, and the arrival of unfamiliar birds signaling seasonal shifts. These lessons become as crucial as the sharpness of your spear or the steadiness of your aim. Your mind expands to encompass a world where survival is a dance with constant change, not a fixed conquest. As you adapt, you also face the psychological toll of loss. The vanishing herds are more than lost meals. They are lost connections to identity and tradition. The stories you tell around the fire are tinged with longing for a time when the earth was simpler, when the rhythm of the herds was predictable and reliable. Yet within this mourning arises resilience, a determination to endure despite the loss, to honor the past by surviving into the future. This chapter of your journey reveals the relentless will of humanity to survive, even when the foundations of life shift beneath your feet. You come to understand that adaptability is not merely a trait but a lifeline, a testament to the intelligence and spirit that have carried humans through countless trials. The disappearance of the herds is not an end but a brutal beginning, a challenge that demands every ounce of your ingenuity, courage, and communal strength. If you were faced with the sudden loss of everything you knew, how would you respond? Could you let go of old certainties and embrace the unknown? And as the world around you changes faster than ever before, what new paths would you carve to ensure your survival? When herds disappear, you learn that survival is not about holding on but about moving forward, about listening to the land's subtle whispers and answering with the fierce creativity only humans possess. It is this relentless adaptability that shapes the destiny of your tribe and the story of humanity itself. You find yourself kneeling on the edge of a melting glacier, where the ice is slowly releasing its secrets. Beneath your fingertips, the cold surface glistens like glass, holding frozen echoes of lives long past. Every crack, every embedded bone, every footprint trapped in this eternal frost is a fragment of a story that time has preserved with ruthless precision. The ice does not forget. It keeps the memory of those who walked these lands tens of thousands of years ago, capturing moments in an unbroken silence that stretches across millennia. You lean closer, your breath fogging the frozen surface as you trace the imprint of a massive footstep. It's a giant's mark, perhaps a mammoth or an ancient human hunter pressed deeply into the icy ground when the world was younger and colder. This single print is more than a mark. It is a frozen heartbeat, a whisper from the past. You feel the weight of the moment. Someone once stood here, their fate intertwined with this very place. Their movements, their struggles, and their hopes are embedded in this silent message, waiting for you to unravel. As the ice melts, you discover more. Fragments of bone sharpened into tools, shards of flint that gleam with the skill of ancient craftsmanship, and the remains of animals hunted and consumed in seasons long gone. These artifacts are not mere objects. They are keys to understanding how your ancestors lived, hunted, and adapted. Each piece speaks of ingenuity born from necessity, the tools crafted not from metal, but from the very remains of the beasts they pursued across the frozen expanse. But these remnants do more than recount facts. They open a window into the emotional landscape of early humans, their fears, their triumphs, and their connection to a world both beautiful and brutal. You imagine the hands that shaped these tools, the fires around which stories were told, and the silent conversations shared between hunters tracking herds beneath an unforgiving sky. The ice, in its slow, steady decay, offers you a direct line to those ancient moments of human experience. You realize that the ice is both a vault and a storyteller, preserving narratives that written words could never capture. It holds the delicate balance between life and death, the passage of time, and the resilience of memory itself. As you piece together these frozen clues, you become an archaeologist of memory, decoding the silent language etched into the very fabric of the earth. Your task is to listen closely, to interpret subtle signs, and to honor the lives that shape the course of human history. Yet this work is as much about what remains unseen as what lies exposed. Ice conceals as much as it reveals, hiding layers of history beneath its shifting surface. You must approach with humility and patience, understanding that every discovery opens new questions and mysteries. What stories remain buried in the frozen deep? How many lives have left traces that time and thaw have yet to reveal? As the ice melts and reveals its secrets, you confront the profound fragility of memory, how easily it can be lost, distorted, or forgotten. But you also witness its extraordinary endurance. The footprints, the tools, the bones, they are threads that connect you to a distant past, weaving a tapestry of human resilience and adaptation. They remind you that despite the ravages of time and climate, the essence of those early lives endures, frozen in moments you now hold in your hands. If you could step into these frozen echoes, would you recognize yourself in the stories they tell? Would you feel the same urgency, the same hope, the same drive to survive? And as you hold these ancient traces, what new stories will you write about who we are and where we come from? The ice is not just a relic of a lost world. It is a living memory, a silent witness to the struggles and triumphs that shaped humanity's path. As you uncover its stories, you become part of that legacy, carrying forward the echoes of a time when survival demanded every ounce of courage, ingenuity, and spirit. You stand at the edge of a world in transformation where the ancient glaciers, once vast and unyielding, begin their slow retreat. The great ice sheets that once shaped your existence are melting away, unveiling a landscape both unfamiliar and filled with raw potential. The air carries a different scent now, softer, warmer, alive with the hum of returning life. The frozen silence that once defined your world is replaced by the stirring of rivers, the whisper of new winds through nascent forests, and the distant calls of creatures reclaiming their homes. You sense it deep within, the cusp of an era that will redefine not only the land but the very way you live. For countless generations, your life was dictated by the rhythms of the herds and the unforgiving ice. You and your tribe were hunters, nomads who followed the migrating beasts, reading tracks etched into the frozen earth, relying on sharpened spears and bone tools to survive. But now, as the glaciers pull back, the relentless chase becomes more complicated. The vast ice highways fragment, turning into rivers and marshes, reshaping the routes of the great herds. The familiar patterns you depended on begin to dissolve. Where once the mammoths thundered in steady procession, now you find pockets of woodland, dotted with small herds of deer and wild goats, species that thrive in this emerging mosaic of life. This is the moment when your ancestors faced a monumental choice. The old ways of tracking, following, and hunting across endless ice could no longer sustain life in this rapidly changing world. You start to linger longer in certain places, drawn by fresh water, abundant plants, and sheltered valleys. Slowly, the idea of settling takes root, a place not just to hunt from but to call home. This shift is more than geographical. It is a seismic change in human experience. No longer mere visitors in a frozen wasteland, you become settlers, becoming entwined with the land in new, complex ways. Settling brings new challenges and opportunities. The ice's retreat reveals soils rich with nutrients, inviting the first tentative experiments in plant gathering and cultivation. You notice the seasonal cycles in a new light, the flowering of plants, the migration of birds, the growth of berries. With time, these signs guide your movements less than before, as you develop a more intimate knowledge of a fixed territory. This knowledge is profound. The hills, the streams, the sheltered groves become landmarks not only for survival, but for community and culture. The tools you craft evolve as well. The sharp bone and flint of your hunting implements are joined by grinding stones and digging sticks. The rhythms of daily life change. Fire becomes central not only for warmth and protection, but for cooking the new foods that sustain you. Social bonds deepen as families gather, sharing stories around the firelight, weaving together myth, memory, and knowledge. These emerging communities are the seeds of civilization, built on resilience and adaptation. Yet with settlement comes new risks. The land that once felt infinite now requires stewardship. You must learn to manage resources carefully to avoid exhaustion of game and plants. Conflict sometimes arises over territory or food, but these struggles also drive innovation in technology, in social structure, and in cooperation. The relationship between humans and nature becomes more reciprocal, a dance of give and take. You also begin to understand time differently, no longer simply counting seasons by the movements of the herds. You observe lunar cycles, the sun's path, and the changing stars. This awareness leads to rituals and ceremonies that honor the land and the cycles of life, grounding your place in the vast tapestry of nature. These rites bind the community, affirming identity and continuity across generations. As the ice retreats, you witness the dawn of a new epoch, the transformation from hunter to settler, from wanderer to dweller. It is a story of profound change, born from the Earth's shifting moods and humanity's indomitable spirit. You stand at the crossroads of past and future, carrying the knowledge of the ice and the promise of the land that now stretches before you. If you were there, would you choose to leave the nomadic freedom of the hunt for the rooted certainty of a home? How would you balance the risks and rewards of settling in a world still in flux? And as the glaciers melt away, revealing new landscapes and possibilities, what kind of future would you dare to imagine? The retreat of the ice is not just a geological event, it is a turning point in the human story. It marks the beginning of civilization, the birth of culture, and the deepening of humanity's relationship with the natural world. As you watch the ice recede, you stand witness to the unfolding of history itself, a history shaped by adaptation, resilience, and the courage to embrace change. You watch the ice melt once more. Only this time, the change is unlike anything your ancestors ever faced. The glaciers are receding, rivers swelling and coastlines shifting, but it's not a slow, steady retreat shaped by natural cycles. This time, the pace is frantic, fueled by human hands and the relentless consumption of Earth's resources. The very landscape that nurtured your forebears through millennia of transformation now trembles under a global threat. You feel the urgency in the air, a tension as palpable as the biting cold your ancestors once braved, yet far more vast in consequence. You realize that the lessons buried beneath the ancient ice are more relevant than ever. Your ancestors survived not by brute force, but by profound adaptability, a skill honed through watching the subtle signs of the earth, reading the whispers of weather and animal behavior, and respecting the delicate balance between themselves and the environment. Their survival was intertwined with understanding cycles of change, and they learned to bend without breaking, to innovate without overstepping. Now, as you face a world altered by climate crisis, their resilience echoes like a guidebook written in frost and stone. Look closely and you see that their story is one of humility and respect, a reminder that the earth is a living system, fragile and complex. Your ancestors did not conquer nature. They became part of its flow, moving in rhythm with seasonal shifts, herds, and ice. They embraced uncertainty, often without choice, yet they found ways to thrive by paying attention and adapting quickly. These ancient strategies speak across time, urging you to listen more carefully to the warnings etched in melting glaciers, dying forests, and shifting weather patterns. You also sense a deeper truth. Survival is not just about enduring, but about evolving culture and technology responsibly. The bone spears and firelight of the past have given way to science and innovation today, tools with the power to heal or harm on an unprecedented scale. The choice now rests with you. Will technology become a force for regeneration, or will it accelerate destruction? The story of your ancestors teaches that balance, respect, and foresight are crucial. They remind you that human ingenuity, when guided by care for the planet, can rewrite the future. Yet adaptation is not merely a scientific challenge. It is profoundly psychological and social. Your ancestors understood the value of community, stories, and shared knowledge to strengthen bonds in times of hardship. These cultural foundations help them face uncertainty together, forging identity and hope. Today, as climate upheaval threatens millions, this lesson gains new urgency. Collective action, empathy, and the sharing of wisdom are essential tools for survival on a global scale. You wonder, can modern society rekindle this ancient spirit of unity and resilience before it's too late? The melting ice serves as both a warning and a call to action, a reminder that time is finite and the window for change narrows with each passing year. But it also holds promise, revealing opportunities for renewal and rebirth if you choose to heed the past. You envision a world where humanity respects natural limits, restores ecosystems, and rebuilds in harmony with the Earth's rhythms. This vision is not naive. It is grounded in the hard-earned wisdom of those who lived through the harshest climates and emerged transformed. So you ask yourself, what legacy will you leave? Will you be the generation that learned from the ice, that honored the lessons of resilience and respect? Or will you ignore the silent messages held in melting glaciers and shifting seasons, risking a future where the balance is lost? The answers lie not only in science and policy, but in a profound shift in how you see your place within the web of life. If your ancestors could speak, their voice would be quiet but clear, urging you to observe, adapt, and act with care. They would remind you that survival is a story written not in isolation, but in connection, across generations and species. They would challenge you to embrace uncertainty with courage and to rebuild a world worthy of their endurance. The climate crisis is the most profound challenge humanity has ever faced, but it is also an opportunity, a chance to reconnect with ancient wisdom and forge a future where both people and planet can thrive. As the ice melts again, the story of survival continues, and you are part of this unfolding journey. If you were faced with this moment, would you choose to listen to the Earth's whispers or turn away? How might you carry forward the resilience of those who came before, adapting not just to survive, but to create a world that future generations will thank you for? The melting ice is more than a symbol of loss. It is a beacon of hope, urging you to act with urgency, humility, and wisdom. The choice is yours, and the time is now. You stand at the edge of a vast memory, stretching back through millennia of frost, movement, and survival. The ice, once an overwhelming presence, has carved its story into your bones, your instincts, your very way of being. You carry within you the echoes of ancient hunters who moved with the herds, the whispers of wind that swept across frozen plains, and the resilient spirit that refused to bow to the merciless cold. This dance between humanity and ice is not merely a chapter in history. It is the thread woven deeply into the fabric of who you are. Imagine the relentless pulse of those early lives, each breath a battle, each step measured in hope and danger. The great herds, mammoths, and caribou were more than prey. They were partners in a complex dance of existence. Their migrations dictated your movements. Their instincts mirrored your own. You learned to read the silent language of tracks, to sense shifts in weather that foretold change, to craft tools from bone and flint that bridged your will with nature's demands. These skills were not just survival tactics. They were expressions of connection, respect, and ingenuity that bound you to the land and to one another. This connection shaped the earliest human stories, tales passed by firelight, embedding knowledge and identity into the hearts of generations. Elders carried wisdom like sacred flame, teaching you that every footprint and every whispered breeze carried meaning. The rituals of the hunt were not just practical acts, but ceremonies that anchored your place in a world larger than yourself, reminding you that life's continuity depends on balance and reverence. Now standing here, you realize that the ice's legacy is not frozen in the past. It flows through your veins, a testament to endurance and transformation. The rhythms of those ancient landscapes continue to echo in the cycles of seasons, the migrations of animals, and the fragile dance of ecosystems today. You are part of this ongoing story, one that spans from the first sparks of fire to the complexities of our modern age. This legacy challenges you to reflect on what it means to be human in a changing world. How do you honor the resilience of your ancestors while facing the unprecedented challenges of climate, technology, and society? Their story urges you to embrace adaptability, to listen deeply to the natural world, and to act with humility and foresight. It reminds you that humanity's greatest strength lies not in domination, but in harmony, finding ways to thrive together across generations and species. As you carry this ancient dance forward, you also carry responsibility. The choices you make today ripple into tomorrow, shaping the world your descendants will inherit. You hold the power to protect the delicate balance your ancestors fought so hard to maintain, or to unravel it through neglect and greed. This realization is both humbling and empowering, a call to stewardship grounded in the deepest roots of human history. You pause to feel the weight of this inheritance, not as a burden but as a profound gift. It is a reminder that you are not separate from the earth but intimately entwined with it. The same forces that carved glaciers and shaped migrations also flow through your blood, inspiring resilience, creativity, and hope. The dance between humanity and ice is far from over. It continues with every step you take, every choice you make. If you were to tell this story to the future, what would you say? Would you share the lessons of patience, respect, and courage learned on frozen plains? Would you pass on the wisdom of reading the land's subtle signs and the importance of community in times of uncertainty? These questions linger, inviting you to become a storyteller and guardian of this ancient legacy. The ice may have retreated, but its spirit endures. It whispers in the shifting winds, in the migration of birds, in the turning of seasons. It lives in you, the inheritor of millennia of adaptation, survival, and transformation. This legacy is your anchor and your beacon as you face the unknown horizon ahead. So as this journey draws to a close, you stand ready, not just as a witness to history, but as a participant in an ongoing dance. The legacy of ice is a story of resilience and hope, a testament to humanity's capacity to endure and evolve. It calls you to honor the past, embrace the present, and shape a future where the bond between humans and the natural world remains unbroken. If you carry this story forward, how will it shape your understanding of your place in the world? How will it inspire your actions and dreams for tomorrow? The ancient dance continues, and you are at its heart. You stand at the edge of a vast landscape, not of ice and snow, but of choices and consequences. The footprints you leave today are not those pressed into frozen tundras or soft earth by mammoths or ancient hunters, but the marks of a civilization in flux, trails of carbon, waste, innovation, and hope. The story of survival and adaptation that began in the shadow of glaciers continues, but now the stakes stretch beyond individual survival to the fate of an entire planet. You are no longer just a hunter tracking herds. You are a custodian of Earth's fragile balance, walking a path shaped by millennia of human struggle and resilience. Look around, and you see how the world is changing faster than ever before. Cities rise where glaciers once ruled, rivers run warmer and more unpredictable, and species vanish with a silent urgency. These are the new signs you must learn to read, clues not only about the health of ecosystems, but about the future of humanity itself. Your ancestors learned to listen to the Earth's whispers, to anticipate the subtle signals hidden in tracks and weather. Now those whispers grow louder, warnings etched in melting ice caps and shifting climates, demanding your attention and action. You realize that the legacy of the Ice Age hunters lives on in your ability to adapt, to innovate, and to connect with the world around you. But their lessons also remind you that adaptation cannot come at the expense of the land that sustains you. The footprints we leave now are more than physical. They are ethical and spiritual marks, shaping the world for generations yet unborn. Each choice you make carries weight. The resources you consume, the energy you use, the communities you build. These are the new trails in the story of survival, pathways that can lead toward renewal or destruction. There is a profound urgency in this realization, but also hope. Just as your ancestors mastered the art of reading nature's language, so too can you learn to read the signs of a changing world and respond with wisdom. Science, technology, and culture offer powerful tools, but they must be wielded with care, grounded in respect for the delicate balance that has sustained life for millennia. The resilience you inherited is not a guarantee. It is a call to responsibility. Pause for a moment and imagine the world your descendants will inherit. Will it be a place where the ice's legacy is honored, where the ancient dance between humans and nature continues in harmony? Or will it be a landscape scarred by neglect and disconnection, where the footprints left behind become scars too deep to heal? This is not a distant future. It is a path shaped by the choices you make today. You are part of an unbroken chain stretching back through time, linking you to the hunters who tracked mammoths across shifting ice, to the communities who gathered by firelight and shared stories that shaped identity and survival. Their stories live in you, and your actions will write the next chapters in this ongoing saga. What kind of legacy will you leave? If you could speak to the ancient hunters, what wisdom would you share about the world you inhabit now? Would you tell them about cities and machines, about climate change and conservation? Or would you remind them that the essence of survival remains the same: attention, respect, and connection to the land and to one another? The tracks you leave today are a testament not only to where you have been, but to where you are going. They carry the weight of history and the promise of the future. The story of ice and humanity is far from over. It pulses in the rhythms of the earth and in the choices you make. As you reflect on this, ask yourself, how will you walk forward in this vast, fragile world? What footprints will you leave behind? The answers are yours to shape, in a story as ancient and alive as the ice itself.